The shuttle shook like a broken toy in a child's angry hands. Dr. Hannah Lee gripped her seat as red warning lights flashed all around her. Outside the small window, she could see the storm clouds of Cathara Prime swirling like black soup. "We're going down," shouted Taman Park from the pilot's seat. His strong hands fought with the controls, but the storm was too powerful. Lightning hit their shuttle again, and sparks flew from the control panel. Hannah looked at her team. Sora. Kim, their medic, was checking her medical bag. Junho Choi, their tech guy, was trying to save their computer files. All of them looked scared, but they were trying to be brave. "Everyone hold on," Taman yelled. "This is going to hurt." The shuttle hit the ground hard. Metal screamed against rock. Hannah felt her body slam forward, then sideways. Something sharp cut her arm. She tasted blood in her mouth. Then everything went quiet. Hannah opened her eyes. Smoke filled the broken shuttle. Her arm hurt badly. Blood ran down from a deep cut above her elbow. She looked around. The others were moving, which was good. "Is everyone alive?" she asked. "I think so," Sora said. She had a small cut on her face, but she was already checking the others. Junho hit his head, but he's okay. Taman's shoulder looks hurt. "I'm fine," Taman said, but he was holding his left arm close to his body. "We need to get out of here. The fuel might catch fire." They grabbed what they could carry and climbed. Out of the broken shuttle, the air outside was thick and hot. Strange smells filled their noses like metal and old meat. The sky was dark gray and weird plants grew everywhere. Some looked like earth trees, but with too many branches. Others moved even when there was no wind. "Where are we?" Junho asked. His voice was quiet, like he was afraid something might hear him. Hannah pulled out her scanner. The small device beeped as it read the area. "We're about 50 miles from where we were supposed to land. Right in the middle of Vorthok territory." Everyone went quiet. They all knew about the Vorthok. The reports were clear. They were the most dangerous animals on Cathara Prime. Maybe the most dangerous in the whole galaxy. 12 feet tall, covered in black scales, 6 eyes, claws like swords, and they were smart. Too smart. 3 human. "Settlements tried to build cities here," Hannah said. "The Vorthok killed everyone. Every single person. So what do we do?" Sora asked. She was wrapping a bandage around Hannah's bleeding arm. "We survived," Taman said. He was looking at the forest. Around them. "Our emergency signal is working. Help will come. Just have to stay alive until then." They found a small, clear area near some big rocks. It would give them some protection. Junho got their emergency shelter working. A small metal dome that could keep them safe from the weather. Sora treated everyone's wounds. Taman set up motion sensors around their camp, but Hannah couldn't stop thinking about her cut arm. The blood had stopped flowing, but it still hurt. And something felt wrong. Not just the pain, something else. Like the air itself was watching her. As the sun set, the real sounds of Cathara Prime began. Strange bird calls came from the trees. Something big crashed through the forest far away. Underneath it all, a low humming sound that seemed to come from the ground itself. "What was that?" Junho whispered. They all heard it. A long howl that sounded like no animal from Earth. It was deep and loud, and it seemed to go on forever. When it finally stopped, other howls answered it from different parts of the forest. "Vorthok," Taman said. He checked his weapon. "They know we're here?" Hannah looked at her bandaged arm. A small spot of red was showing through the white cloth. "How can they know? We just got here." "They're smart," Sora said. "The reports say they can smell things from miles away, and they hunt in groups." Another howl came, closer this time, and another from a different direction. The Vorthok were surrounding them. "Maybe they're just curious," Junho said, but his voice shook. Taman laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "The Vorthok don't get curious. They get hungry. And we're the first humans they've seen in 2 years." Hannah stood up and looked into the dark forest. She couldn't see anything, but she could feel something watching them. Many somethings. Her scanner was beeping softly, showing large heat sources moving through the trees. "How many?" she asked. Junho looked at his screen. "I count at least 6. No, wait. ... 8. They're big. Really big." The howls came again, but now they sounded different. Planning something. They're organizing, Taman said. That's not good. Anna touched her bandage again. The bleeding had started again, just a little. But why did that make her feel so strange, like her blood was calling to something in the darkness? We should try to sleep in shifts, Sora said. Maybe they won't attack if we stay in the shelter. Right. Tommen said. I'll take first watch. Everyone else tried to rest, but none of them could sleep. They sat in the small shelter, listening to the sounds outside. The howls came closer and closer. Sometimes they heard footsteps, big, heavy steps that shook the ground. Around midnight, everything went quiet. The forest sounds stopped. Even the wind died down. That's worse than the howling, Junho whispered. Hannah looked at her scanner. The heat sources were still there, but they weren't moving anymore. They're waiting for something. For what? Sora asked. Before anyone could answer, they heard it. A sound like nothing they had ever heard before. It was part roar, part scream, and part something else, something that made their bones feel cold through the small window of their shelter. They saw a shadow moving between the trees. It was huge, bigger than the others, and it was coming straight toward them. That's the Alpha, Taman said. His voice was very quiet, the pack leader. The shadow stopped at the edge of their camp. They could see it now, a massive shape with glowing eyes. 6 eyes, all looking right at their shelter. Hannah's arm began to hurt again. The cut was bleeding more now, and she could smell her own blood in the small space. But something else was happening, something that made no sense. The huge creature. Outside was sniffing the air. Its great head turned back and forth, like a dog trying to follow a scent. And every time it moved, Hannah's wound hurt more. It can smell my blood, she whispered. And in that moment, she realized something terrible. The Vorthok hadn't surrounded them to hunt. They'd come because of her, because of her blood. The Alpha Vorthok took a step closer to their shelter, then another. Its eyes never left the small building where they hid. Hannah looked at her team. Tomorrow, they would find out why the most dangerous predator in the galaxy was so interested in one small human woman with a bleeding arm. The morning sun came through the trees like golden fingers. Hannah woke up first. Her arm still hurt, and the bandage was red with old blood. She looked through the small window of their shelter. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. Did they leave? Junho asked. He was awake too, holding his scanner. I don't think so, Hannah said. Look at your screen. Junho checked his device. His face went white. They're still here, all around us. They've been watching us all night. Taman sat up. He hadn't slept much. His weapon was in his hands. We need to make a plan. Our rescue signal is working, but help won't come for 3 days. 3 days. Sora repeated. Can we hide here for 3 days? We don't have enough food or water, Junho said. And the shelter's power won't last that long. Hannah looked at her bleeding arm. The cut wouldn't stop bleeding completely. Every few hours it would start again. And every time it bled, she felt like something was calling to her from the forest. I think they want me, she said. What do you mean, Taman asked. Last night, when my arm was bleeding the most, that's when the big one came closest. Smelling the air, looking for something, looking for you? Sora asked. Before Hannah could answer, they heard a sound outside. Footsteps. Big, heavy footsteps that made the ground shake. But these steps were different from last night. They were slow, careful. It's coming back, Junho whispered. Through the window, they saw it. The Alpha Vorthok from last night. The daylight, it looked even more frightening. It was 12 feet tall, covered in black scales that looked like metal. Its 6 eyes were bright yellow, and they moved independently, watching everything at once. But the strangest thing was how it moved. It wasn't hunting. It wasn't attacking. It was walking like it was thinking about something. Why isn't it trying to break in? Sora asked. The Vorthok stopped 20 feet from their shelter. It sat down. It's like a giant dog. It sat down and looked at their building. That's not normal, Taman said. The reports say they attack immediately. They don't sit and wait. Hannah watched the creature. Something about its behavior was familiar, but she couldn't figure out what. I'm going outside. What? Taman grabbed her good arm. You crazy? Look at it, Hannah said. It's not acting like a predator. It's acting like it's confused. Confused predators are still dangerous, Sora said. But Hannah was all ready. Putting on her jacket, if it wanted to kill us, it would have broken in last night. Something else is happening here. She opened the shelter door slowly. The Vorthok's 6 eyes all focused on her immediately. But it didn't move. It just watched. Hannah stepped outside. Her heart was beating so fast she could hear it. The Vorthok was even bigger up close. Its claws were as long as kitchen knives. Its teeth looked like they could bite through metal, but it still didn't move. Hello, Hannah said quietly. The Vorthok tilted its massive head. Like it was trying to understand her, Hannah took another step closer. The bandage on her arm was getting red again. Fresh blood was soaking through. The moment the smell hit the air, everything changed. The Vorthok stood up fast. All 6 eyes locked onto Hannah's bleeding arm. Its nostrils opened wide. And it began to sniff the air like it was reading a book. Then something incredible happened. The Vorthok stepped backward, not forward. Like a predator attacking backward like it was afraid. Hannah, get back inside. Damon shouted from the shelter, but Hannah couldn't move. She was watching the most dangerous animal in the galaxy act like it was scared of her. A small human woman with a cut on her arm. The Vorthok kept sniffing. Its eyes got wider and wider.
Ow.
Then it made a sound Hannah had never heard before. Not a roar or a howl. It sounded almost like ... whimpering. You're afraid of me, Hannah said softly. Why are you afraid of me? The Vorthok took another step back. Its head moved back and forth like it was saying no to something. Other Vorthok began coming out of the forest. 7 more of them, all smaller than the Alpha. They looked at Hannah, then at their leader. They seemed confused too, one of the smaller. Vorthok tried to move toward Hannah. The Alpha immediately growled and blocked its path. It was protecting Hannah, not threatening her. This doesn't make sense, Junho said from the shelter doorway. Vorthok don't protect humans. They kill humans. The Alpha Vorthok looked at Junho, then back at Hannah. It sniffed the air again, focusing on her bleeding arm. Whatever it smelled there was making it more and more nervous. Suddenly the Alpha did something that shocked everyone. It lay down. The most feared predator on, Cathara Prime, lay down on its stomach and put its head on the ground. Like it was bowing to Hannah, the other Vorthoks saw this and began to back away. Some of them made low whining sounds. They were all afraid now. What's happening? Sra whispered. Hannah looked at her arm. The blood was flowing more freely now. Every drop that hit the ground made the Vorthok more nervous. I don't know, Hannah said. But they're not seeing me as prey. They're seeing me as something else. The Alpha Vorthok raised its head and looked directly into Hannah's eyes. For a moment that lasted forever, human and alien stared at each other. Hannah felt like the creature was trying to tell her something. Something important. Then, as quickly as they had appeared, the Vorthok began to leave. But they didn't run like scared animals. They moved carefully, quietly, like they were trying. Not to disturb something sacred, the Alpha was the last to go. It stood up slowly, never taking its eyes off Hannah. Then it did something that made everyone's breath stop. It nodded, a tiny movement of its massive head. Definitely a nod. Like it was showing respect, then it disappeared into the forest with the others. Hannah stood alone in the clearing, blood still dripping from her arm. Her team came out of the shelter, all staring at her like she had grown wings. That was impossible, Taman said. Vorthok don't bow to anyone. They don't show respect. They kill everything they meet. Then why didn't they kill me? Hannah asked. Junho was checking his scanner. They're not gone. They're still out there watching us. But they're keeping their distance now. Hannah looked at the drops of her blood on the ground. Whatever was in her blood, it had changed everything. The most dangerous predators in the galaxy were afraid of one small human woman. But why? And more importantly, what did they know about her that she didn't know about herself? In the distance, she could hear the Vorthok howling to each other. But now the howls sounded different. They sounded like warnings, or maybe like prayers. Deep in the forest, the alpha Vorthok named Grimthok moved through the shadows. His mind was racing. On all his 40 years of life, he had never felt fear like this. Not from any enemy, not from any predator. But the smell of that small humans. Blood had filled him with terror. He reached his den, a large cave hidden behind thick trees. Inside, his pack was waiting. 7 other Vorthok sat in a circle, their yellow eyes glowing in the darkness. At the center of the circle was the oldest Vorthok of them all. She was called the Memory Keeper. Her scales were gray with age, and her 6 eyes had seen more than any living creature on Cathera Prime. She kept the stories of their people. She remembered the genetics of every species they had ever hunted. And she knew things that even Grimthak did not know. Tell me, Ancient One, Grimthok said. What did I smell on that human female? The Memory Keeper closed 4 of her 6 eyes. The other 2 looked at Grimthok with deep concern. Show me, she said. Grimthok opened his mouth and breathed out slowly. Vorthok could taste scents for hours after smelling them. The Memory Keeper breathed in his breath, tasting the molecules of Hannah's blood that still lingered there. Her reaction was immediate. All 6 eyes snapped open. Her body went completely still. For a long minute, she said nothing. Ancient One, Grimthok asked. I need to check the deep memory, she said. Her voice was shaking. Wait here. Memory Keeper walked to the back of the cave. There, carved into the rock wall, were thousands of symbols. These were not just pictures. They were genetic codes, written in the old way. The history of every species their people had ever encountered. She ran her claws over the symbols, reading them like a book. Minutes passed, then hours. The other Vorthok waited, getting more nervous with each passing moment. Finally, she returned. But she looked like she had aged 10 years in those few hours. What is it? Grimthok asked. The humans, she said slowly, are not what they appear to be. Meanwhile, back at the crash site, Hannah and her team were trying to understand what had happened. They had spent the day exploring the area, looking for water and food, but they kept finding strange things. Look at this, Junho called out. Was standing near some old stone blocks, half covered by plants. These aren't natural. Hannah walked over to see. The stones were clearly made by intelligent beings. They were covered with symbols that looked like writing, but not like any writing from Earth. How old do you think these are? Sora asked. Hannah ran her scanner over the stones. At least 10,000 years. Maybe more. But the Vorthok aren't supposed to build things, Taman said. The reports say they're hunters, not builders. Maybe someone else lived here before the Vorthok, Junho suggested. As they studied the stones, Hannah's emergency communicator made a beeping sound. Someone was trying to contact them. This is Dr. Manesio Yang, a voice said through the static. I'm an archaeologist with the rescue team. We received your emergency signal. Are you alive? We're alive, Hannah replied. But we have a situation here. What kind of situation? Hannah looked at her team. How could she explain what had happened? With the Vorthok? We encountered the local predators. They didn't attack us. They acted ... strange. Strange how? They seemed afraid of us. Or afraid of me, specifically. There was a long pause. Dr. Lee, I'm going to ask you something important. Have you been injured? Are you bleeding? Hannah looked at her bandaged arm. Yes, I have a cut on my arm. It won't stop bleeding completely. Why? Another pause. I'm 2 hours away from your location. Don't move from where you are. Ah! And Dr. Lee, try to keep that wound covered. Why? What's wrong? I'll explain when I get there. Just ... Be careful. The communication ended. Hannah stared at the device, more confused than ever. Back in the Vorthok den, the memory keeper was sharing terrible knowledge with Grimthok's pack. The genetic markers in that human's blood, she said, match something from the deep memory, something we hoped never to encounter again. What markers? Asked one of the younger Vorthok. The markers of the Ancient Ones. The entire pack went silent. Even the sound of their breathing stopped. That's impossible, Grimthok said. The Ancient Ones vanished millions of years ago. They didn't vanish, the memory keeper said. They evolved. They changed. They became something else. She walked back to the carved symbols on the wall. The Ancient Ones were the first apex, predators of the galaxy. Every species they encountered either joined them, served them, or died. They didn't kill with claws or teeth. They killed with their minds. They were persistence hunters who never gave up. They were pack coordinators who could organize entire worlds. And most terrifying of all, they were extinction specialists. What does that mean? Asked another Vorthok. It means they had a gift for making other species disappear, not through war, through absorption. They would study a species, understand it completely, then slowly replace it. The original species would vanish, but their useful traits would remain in the Ancient Ones. Grimthok felt his blood turn cold. You're saying the humans are ... the descendants of the Ancient Ones? Yes. The memory keeper pointed to specific symbols on the wall. Look at these genetic patterns. Humans carry dormant DNA from dozens of extinct species. Species that the Ancient Ones encountered and absorbed over millions of years. But humans seem so weak, one of the young Vorthok said. So small, that's how the Ancient Ones worked. The memory keeper explained. They appeared harmless. They studied their targets. They learned everything about them. Then, when the time was right, they struck. Not with violence, with inevitability. Grimthok began to understand. The human settlements that failed here, they weren't destroyed by us, the memory keeper. Said we killed the humans, yes. But we didn't understand what we were doing. Every time we killed them, we were teaching them about us. They were learning our weaknesses, our behaviors, our territories. The humans who died were gathering information for the humans who would come later. Like scouts, Grimthok whispered. Exactly. And now, more humans are coming. But these humans are different. This female carries active genetic markers, not dormant ones. Her blood shows signs of awakening. Awakening to what? To what humans really are. Apex predators who don't need claws or teeth. They have something much more dangerous. They have inevitability. Given enough time, humans will inherit every world they touch. Not through conquest, but through patience. Grimthok looked at his pack. Fear was in all their eyes now. What do we do? He asked. The memory keeper was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. We have two choices. Fight them. And eventually. Lose, or ... or what? Or we choose to join them before they choose to replace us. 2 hours later, Dr. Manesio Young arrived at the crash site. She was a small woman with tired eyes and hands that shook slightly. She looked at Hannah's bandaged arm and nodded grimly. I need to see the wound, she said. Why? Hannah asked. What's this about? Manesio opened her bag and pulled out a strange device. 3 months ago, we found ruins on another planet. Ruins that looked exactly like those stones you found here. The writing told a story about humans that ... Well, that doesn't match our history books. She activated the device and held it near Hannah's arm. It began beeping rapidly. What does that mean? Sora asked. Manesio looked at the readings on her device. Her face went pale. It means Hannah isn't entirely human, at least not anymore. What? Device showed genetic markers that were changing, evolving, becoming something new, something that remembered very old instincts. What am I becoming? Hannah asked. Minesio looked toward the forest, where she knew the Vorthok were watching. You're becoming what humans were always meant to be. The question is, what are you going to do about it? The next morning, Hannah woke up feeling different. Her arm no longer hurt. She unwrapped the bandage and stared at her skin. The deep cut was almost gone. Only a thin pink line remained where the wound had been. That's impossible, Sora said. Looking at Hannah's arm, cuts that deep take weeks to heal. Maybe the alien air has healing properties, Junho suggested, but he didn't sound like he believed it. Min-SEO was examining the ancient stone ruins with her equipment. These symbols, she said, they're not just writing, they're instructions. Genetic instructions. What kind of instructions? Hannah asked. Instructions for awakening dormant DNA. The Ancient Ones left these markers all over the galaxy. Descendants found them. The markers would activate old genetic memories. Hannah felt a strange tingling in her mind, like something was trying to wake up inside her head. What kind of memories? Before Minesio could answer, Taemin's motion sensors started beeping. We have company, he said. Lots of company. Through the trees, they could see Vorthok moving in the shadows. But these weren't the same 8 from yesterday. There were dozens of them now. Maybe hundreds. Are they surrounding us? Junho asked, his voice shaking. No, Hannah said. She was surprised by how calm she felt. They're studying us. She was right. The Vorthok weren't getting closer. They were positioning themselves at a safe distance, watching every move the humans made, like scientists observing lab animals. This is new behavior, Minesio said. Vorthok don't study their prey. They attack or they leave. Grimthok emerged from the forest, but he wasn't alone. 3 other large Vorthok walked with him. And behind them came the Memory Keeper, moving slowly on her old legs. The Alpha brought his counsel, Taemin said. That's either very good or very bad. Hannah stepped forward. The tingling in her mind was getting stronger. She could almost understand what the Vorthok were thinking. Almost hear their thoughts. You're learning our mind speech, Grimthok said. Everyone froze. The Vorthok had spoken. Not in growls or howls, but in words. Broken, strange words, but words they could understand. You can talk, Hannah said. We always talk, the Memory Keeper replied. Her voice was like rocks grinding together. You are beginning to listen. How are we understanding them? Sora whispered. A genetic awakening, Minesio said. The Ancient Ones could communicate with any intelligent species. That ability is waking up in Hannah. Hannah looked at the Vorthok Council. Now she could see emotions. In their alien faces, fear, curiosity, and something else. Respect. No, something deeper than respect. Recognition. You know what I am, Hannah said to Grimthok. We know what you are becoming, he replied. The question is, do you know? Images began flashing in Hannah's mind. Not her memories, but older ones. Much older. She saw worlds she had never visited, species she had never encountered. And always moving through these alien landscapes were figures that looked almost human, but not quite human. They were taller, stronger, with eyes that seemed to see everything. They moved through alien cities like they owned them. Other species bowed to them, served them, followed them. And wherever these figures went, the native species slowly began to change, to become more like them. The Ancient Ones, Hannah whispered. Your ancestors, the Memory Keeper said. And now, you are becoming what they were. I don't want to become anything, Hannah said. I just want to go home. Home, Grimthok repeated. What is home to your kind? The question hit Hannah strangely. What was home? Earth, but humans had left Earth and spread across dozens of worlds. Every planet they touched became home. Every species they encountered became. What? More images flashed through her mind. Saw human colonies on different worlds. But in every colony, she noticed something strange. The humans looked different on each planet. On water worlds, they had developed better lungs and webbed fingers. On high-gravity worlds, they had become stronger and shorter. On worlds with dangerous predators, they had become faster and more alert. Humans adapt, she said out loud. More than adapt, the memory keeper said. You absorb. You take the best traits from every world, every species you encounter. And you pass those traits to your children. That's evolution, Jinho said. All species evolve. Not like humans, Grimthok said. Other species evolve over millions of years. Humans evolve in generations, sometimes in years, sometimes in months. Hana thought about the human colonies that had failed on Cathera Prime. The humans who died here, they weren't just killed, were they? They were studied, the memory keeper admitted. We learned their weaknesses, but they learned ours too. Even as they died, they were gathering information, sending signals to other humans, teaching them about us. And now you're here, Grimthok said to Hannah. Stronger than the ones who came before, more adapted, more dangerous. I'm not dangerous, Hannah protested. Look around you, the memory keeper said. Hannah looked. Her team was standing differently now. Taemin was scanning the forest with eyes that seemed sharper than before. Sora was examining plant samples with intense focus. Junho was studying the Vorthok with the curiosity of a scientist, not the fear of prey. Even Minesio was different. She was reading the ancient symbols faster than should be possible, like she was remembering them rather than translating them. You're changing us, Hannah realized. Just by being near you, we're adapting to this world. As we are adapting to you, Grimthak said. Already some of our young ones are beginning to understand human speech without learning it. Your presence is awakening new thoughts in our minds. This is how it always happens, the memory keeper explained. The ancient ones never conquered through war. They conquered through integration. They would arrive on a world, and slowly, everything would begin to change. The native species would start to think like them, act like them, become like them. Until the original species disappeared, Grimthok added. But we don't want to replace you, Hannah said. Want has nothing to do with it, the memory keeper replied. It is what you are, what your species does. You cannot help it any more than we can help hunting. Hannah felt the tingling in her mind grow stronger. She was beginning to understand the Vorthok completely now. Not just their words, but their thoughts. Their fears, their hopes, and she realized something terrible. She was also beginning to think like them, to see the world through their eyes, to understand their hunting strategies and their pack dynamics. She was absorbing their knowledge, their instincts, their very nature. This is what happened to all the other species, she said quietly. They didn't just disappear, they became part of us, part of humanity, Minesio confirmed. Every useful trait, every survival skill, every piece of knowledge, it all gets absorbed into the human collective. That's why humans can survive anywhere, adapt to anything, because we're not just human, Hannah finished. We're the collected essence of every species we've ever encountered. The Vorthok Council exchanged glances. Their decision was clear in their body language. We have a choice, Grimthok said. Fight you, and eventually lose ourselves completely. Or ... or join you willingly, the memory keeper said. Become part of the human collective while we still have some control over the process. You're talking about surrender, one of the other Vorthok said. I'm talking about survival, Grimthok replied. The alternative is extinction. Hannah looked at her team. They were all watching her, waiting for her decision. Somehow, she had become their leader. Not because she was the strongest or the smartest, but because she was changing into something that could guide them all. Something that could guide everyone. What if there's a third option, she said. The Vorthok looked at her with all their eyes. If we don't absorb you or replace you, what if we become partners instead? Partners? Grimthok asked. Humans are good at adapting and planning. Vorthok are good at hunting and surviving. Together, we could be something new, something that's never existed before. The memory keeper was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. In all the records of the ancient ones, they never tried partnership. They only knew absorption. Then maybe it's time to try something different, Hannah said. She extended her hand toward Grimthak. Partners? Grimthak stared at her hand. In his alien mind, he was making a choice that would change the future of both their species. Slowly, carefully, he reached out with one massive claw and touched her palm. The moment their skin made contact, both human and Vorthok felt something new. Not absorption, not replacement, but connection, partnership, evolution working together instead of competition. Partners, Grimthok said. And in that moment, something unprecedented began. The first true alliance between humans and an alien apex predator species. Not conquest, not surrender, but cooperation, the beginning of something the galaxy had never seen before. 3 months later, Hannah stood on the observation deck of the new research station. Through the large windows, she could see something that would have been impossible. Just a few months ago, human children were playing with young Vorthok. Still, hard to believe, said Dong Han Lim, the psychologist, who had arrived with the second wave of colonists. 6 months ago, this planet was considered too dangerous for human settlement. Hannah watched as 8-year-old Subin Kong threw a ball to a young Vorthok named Sharptooth. The alien creature caught it in its claws and threw it back, being careful not to use too much force. Both child and alien were laughing. The first generation is always the most important, Hannah said. They'll grow up thinking this is normal. It was becoming normal. The partnership between humans and Vorthok was working better than anyone had expected. The humans provided technology, medicine, and organizational skills. The Vorthok provided knowledge of the planet, hunting expertise, and protection from the other dangerous creatures that lived in the deep forests. Dr. Lee, a voice called behind her. Hannah turned to see Grimthok approaching. He moved easily through the human-sized corridors now. The research station had been designed for both species. Hello, Grimthok, Hannah said. How are the new hunting grounds working out? Very well, Grimthok replied. His English had improved greatly over the past months. The young humans are learning our tracking methods, and our young ones are learning your planning strategies. It was true. Human Vorthok teams were becoming incredibly effective. They could track prey that pure human teams would never find, and plan complex hunts that pure Vorthok packs could never organize. The Memory Keeper wants to speak with you, Grimthok said. She has discovered something important. Together to the Memory Cave, which had been connected to the research station by a covered walkway. Inside, the ancient Vorthok was working with Dr. Minesio Yang, translating more of the old symbols. Hannah, the Memory Keeper said, We have found something troubling in the deep memory. What is it? Hannah asked. Minesio pointed to a section of symbols on the cave wall. These aren't just records of the ancient ones, they're warnings. Messages. Left for future generations. Warnings about what? About what happens when the awakening goes too far? The Memory Keeper explained. The ancient ones didn't disappear because they were defeated. They disappeared because they became something else entirely. Hannah felt a chill run down her spine. What do you mean? They absorbed so many species, took on so many traits, that they stopped being themselves, Minesio said. They became a collective consciousness. No longer individual beings, but a single mind controlling billions of bodies. And they decided that individuality was inefficient, the Memory Keeper added. So they began converting every intelligent species into extensions of themselves, not partners, not even absorption. Complete assimilation. That's why they left the warnings, Minesio said. The last individuals among the ancient ones, before they lost themselves completely, tried to warn their descendants about the danger of unlimited integration. Hannah looked at her hands. Over the past months, she had noticed small changes. Her reflexes were faster, like a Vorthax. Her hearing was sharper. Her ability to understand the emotions and thoughts of others had grown stronger. Am I becoming like them? She asked. We all are, Grimthok said. I can understand human emotions now in ways my people never could. Some of our young ones are beginning to use tools like humans do, and some of your young ones are developing enhanced senses like we have. But that's good, isn't it? Donghain asked. We're becoming better versions of ourselves. Only if we choose what we become, the Memory Keeper said. The ancient ones lost the ability to choose. The integration became automatic, unstoppable. Every species they met was absorbed, whether they wanted to be or not. Hannah understood now why the Vorthok had been so afraid when they first smelled her blood. They weren't just afraid of being killed, they were afraid of losing themselves entirely. "What do we do?" she asked. "We learn from their mistakes," Menesio said. "The warnings are also instructions, ways to control the integration process, ways to choose what we become instead of letting it happen automatically." She pointed to another section of symbols. "This talks about conscious evolution. Instead of absorbing everything, you choose specific traits that improve both species, and you always maintain individual identity." "How?" Hannah asked. "By making the choice together," Grimthok said. "Every step of the integration must be agreed upon by both species. No automatic absorption. No unconscious changes. Everything must be deliberate." Over the following weeks, they began implementing the ancient wisdom. Instead of letting the genetic changes happen randomly, they created a careful program. Human and Vorthok scientists worked together to identify beneficial traits. Then, they used controlled genetic therapy to make specific improvements. Humans gained enhanced senses and better physical coordination. Vorthok gained improved problem-solving abilities and emotional intelligence. But both species kept their core identities. "It's working," Sarah reported during one of their weekly meetings. "The children are developing enhanced abilities, but they're still clearly human or Vorthok. No loss of individual personality, and no automatic absorption of other species," Taman added. "We encountered a group of flying creatures last week. The old days, humans might have unconsciously begun adapting to flight. Instead, we studied them and chose to develop better climbing abilities." 6 months after the partnership began, representatives from the Galactic Council arrived to investigate the Cathara phenomenon. They had never seen anything like it. 2 apex predator species working together instead of competing. "This changes everything," said the council representative, a being from a species that looked like walking crystals. "For millions of years, apex predators have competed for dominance. Your partnership proves that cooperation is possible. More than possible," Hannah said. "It's better. Together, we can do things that neither species could do alone." The representatives studied the mixed human-Vorthok teams working in the research stations. "Other species have been watching your experiment with great interest, and many want to try similar partnerships. But carefully," Grimthok added, "we have learned that integration must be chosen, not forced. Identity must be preserved. The ancient ones made the mistake of thinking that unity meant uniformity," the memory keeper said. "We have learned that true unity comes from diversity, working together." As the months passed, the Cathara colony became a model for other worlds. Species that had been enemies for generations began exploring partnership instead of conflict. The galaxy was slowly learning a new way to evolve. Hannah often stood on the observation deck, watching the mixed community that had grown around the research station. Human families lived next to Vorthok dens. Children of both species played together, learned together, grew together. "What are you thinking about?" Subin Kong asked. The young girl had become friends with Hannah over the months. She was one of the first human children to develop enhanced senses. "I'm thinking about the future," Hannah said. "About what we're becoming." "What are we becoming?" Subin asked. Hannah watched as the girl's Vorthok friend, a young one named Genelclaw, approached them. The 2 children communicated in a mixture of words and gestures that came naturally to them. They were growing up in a world where cooperation between species was normal. "We're becoming something new," Hannah said. "Not human. Not Vorthok, but not less than what we were. More than what we were." She thought about the ancient ones, who had lost themselves in their hunger for perfection. And she thought about the choice her people had made to grow together instead of alone, to preserve identity while sharing strength. "We're becoming what the ancient ones could have been," she said quietly, "if they had learned that the strongest predators are the ones who choose when not to hunt." Grimthok approached them, moving with the careful grace that had become natural to him around humans. "The evening hunt is beginning," he said. "Will you join us?" Hannah nodded. Together, human and Vorthok teams would venture into the forest, not to dominate it, but to understand it, to learn from it, to become part of it without destroying it. As they walked toward the forest, Hannah realized something important. The apex beast had indeed faked death that first day, not to avoid a fight, but to avoid destroying something precious. Something that had the potential to become what they all were now. Partners, chosen family. It's the next step in evolution, and it was beautiful.